What's going on, everyone? All you horror lovers, today we are celebrating and talking about the 40-year anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. Let's get into why I love this movie so much and this slasher villain. It's just one of the greatest horror movies ever made, and Freddy Krueger is, hands down, without a doubt, one of the best horror villains, the slashers ever created. It was given to us 40 years ago by the late, great Wes Craven. Rest in peace. Freddy Krueger he's just an icon in the horror genre, and among the slashers. You cannot talk about horror or slashers without mentioning Freddy Krueger, of course. His iconic glove with the knives for fingers, his fedora, his burned skin. There's just so many memorable traits about Freddy Krueger, and of course his charisma. Freddy Krueger, as I said, is one of the best slashers in horror, and one of my other favorite slashers, one of the best slashers in horror, period, who's a new one, is Art the Clown. Why I'm mentioning him is because Freddy Krueger is actually part inspiration for Art the Clown. Damien Leone said that Art the Clown was pretty much a mashup of Freddy Krueger and Harpo Marx. This is where he got the idea of Art's demeanor, his charisma, the way he taunts you and laughs when he straight up murders you in some sadistic and brutal ways, just like Freddy Krueger, right? So A Nightmare on Elm Street is about Freddy Krueger, obviously, who is a child murderer, or was a child murderer when he was alive, and now he haunts teenagers in their dreams. He's in Nancy Thompson's dreams and all her friends, and she realizes that they're all having the same dream, the dream about the same guy. So he's haunting them, and if you die in your dream, you die in real life. Freddy Krueger makes sure of that. So he's going after them, and then there's this, she finds out that her parents and other parents of kids in the neighborhood were responsible for the death of Freddy Krueger. When he beat his charges and he was going to be let off, they tracked him down to the boiler room where he worked and where he took his victims, and they burned him alive. And this is what gives us the image of Freddy Krueger that we have today, that we know and love. So Nancy is trying to figure out how to stop him, as he's taking revenge on the kids of Springwood, and she's trying to figure out how to stop him and before he kills her and her friends. So that's basically the rundown of Nightmare on Elm Street and what it is. Again, one of the best horror movies of all time. It was so fresh, it was so original. It was just such a great concept. You got this slasher villain who kills you in your dreams. He's ruthless. He's kind of quirky. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street, he wasn't too funny, which I actually liked. That gave him more of that a mean streak. You know what I mean? Where he wasn't too comical. He wasn't like, it wasn't made like a joke. So he was just quirky. He kind of teased you, kind of like he would tease a child, being that he was a child killer. So it makes sense. But Freddy Krueger, again, and Nightmare on Elm Street, I should say, gave us some of the most memorable scenes in horror that we still know and love today, right? The scene of, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, probably even more than I like the scene of Glenn being killed, was the scene of Tina being killed when she has her dream of Freddy Krueger and his arms are outstretched in the alleyway and they're like super long, and he's giving her this creepy laugh coming towards her. He cuts his fingers off, and he's chasing her, and she pulls his face off in the dream. See, that's another thing about Nightmare on Elm Street that made it so great, is like all the dream sequences actually felt like dreams. It actually felt like you were watching a horror, like someone's nightmare, a horrible nightmare. You know what I mean? It actually felt like it was like really weird and surreal. Like it didn't seem, it seemed like it took no effort to create that for Wes Craven. It seemed like a real dream that someone was having. So anyway, he attacks Tina in the dream, and she's in the room with her boyfriend Rod, and Rod pulls the covers off her when he notices Tina struggling in bed, and she's like flailing around, and he sees the cuts happening all at once, as he describes to Nancy later. He says that he saw the 4 cuts happening all at once. Nancy right away understands what that means, she knows already that they've been having dreams about this guy, and she's starting to realize that this is more than just a dream. So that's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, and of course, like I said, in horror period, of any horror movie, right? The way he's levitating her. She's in this room and she's being killed by this invisible force. She's levitating to the ceiling. She's being dragged around on the ceiling. There's blood everywhere. It was just an awesome scene. It was so like, if you're bloodthirsty, and this satiates it just like it did for me. The next one, of course, is the scene with Glenn, where he's in his bed. He's waiting for Nancy to give him a call to tell him what to do. He falls asleep when she warns him not to, and he's pulled into the bed. You see Freddy's glove, his iconic glove, come up. He pulls Glenn into the bed, and you get this, the TV goes in with him, and all this blood and gore and everything is shooting up onto the ceiling. And his mother comes in, and it's like just going around the whole room. It was so awesome to watch. These are things that were never seen before in movies. It was just, again, such a fresh concept. It was so well done, just awesome all around. So Nightmare on Elm Street is one of those movies that there's nothing that's going to come close to it. It's in a league of its own, really. Freddy Krueger was just a phenomenal character played by Robert Englund, and no one is going to play Freddy Krueger the way Robert Englund did. No one is ever going to be Freddy Krueger. There is only one Freddy Krueger, and that will always be Robert Englund, in my opinion. I'm not one who likes remakes. I don't really like, when people veer off from the original concepts and movies in horror. But anyway, that's my opinion. So that is why I love Nightmare on Elm Street so much. It's just such a great horror movie. It had some of the best scenes in horror. It has one of the best villains in horror. And of course, I always root for the villain. So that's where I'm going to end this one. Again, one of the best horror movies, one of the best horror villains. I love it. I love Freddy Krueger. And I want to just wish it a happy anniversary. It has withstood the test of time, and I think it's going to withstand even more years of time to come. So with that, stay slashing.